Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your friend James Shaw. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us today as we do what we do all the time, which is talk to elite people doing elite things. And I want to do a session today, right now, on listings. Listings are the name of the game. That's not a surprise. That's not new breaking information. We've got to have listings in this market to succeed. Got to get them sold. But this transition of a market we're in is bringing new challenges. And so when I'm thinking about, well, who do we go to help us with listings? There's two people that come to mind right away because this is what they do every day, is help people take more listings. That's Emily and Aaron, and we're going to go all in on it today. Emily, will you introduce yourself, tell them who you are and where you are and a little bit about you?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, everyone. I am Emily Baker. I am based out of Ozark, Missouri. There was a show about the Ozarks on Netflix. If you've seen it, that's where I'm from. And I'm an executive coach with MAPS, and I have the privilege of leading the Mega Listing Agent Fast Track Training Program where, like you said, we help agents take more listings and take market share.
And you do it with Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, James. Thanks for having us again.
You got it. Tell us who you are and where you are and a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm based out of San Diego. We didn't have a show, but we did have a movie, Anchorman, Emily. But anyway, also MAPS executive coach, been selling real estate here for 21 years and co-lead the Mega Listing Agent with Emily Baker. So we're excited about today.
We're coast to coast today. I'm in Tampa, and we got Emily in the middle and Aaron on the West Coast. It's great. All right, so let's chunk this down. You guys have been leading your series with MAPS Coaching for quite some time. It's one of the more popular MAPS coaching programs out there, and you can get the details on it at mapscoaching.com, and we'll talk about it toward the end. But you guys said there's basically three challenges right now that agents have with listings. Where to get the appointments right now. The market's fallen off. There's 2 million fewer deals happening a year right now than a couple of years ago. Listing inventory is still pretty low across the country. So where are we getting listings, number one? Number two, let's get it on the market. There seem to be more people they're a little slower maybe to get it on the market than normal. And then three, finally pricing it right to get it sold. So we're going to unpack all three. Let's start with where we're getting appointments. And so you tell us you're an agent out looking for a listing right now. Where are we going?
Yeah, and it's a great question. And first we have to understand who's selling right now. And when I look through my roster, and I know Emily has the same experience, basically listings, 75% of listings are coming from one of three opportunities. It's either a boomer who's downsizing, a senior that's transitioning, or it's a family inheriting property. And keep in mind, transitioning can look different ways. And of course, boomers downsizing can look different ways. But that first and foremost, James, when we understand that that's who's actually transacting right now, then we can start to figure out where to go and find these different sellers. And one of the things that we have to understand about people that are going through these life transitions is that as agents, we are not always on the front line of that conversation. Oftentimes, it might be another professional who knows about the opportunity first. For example, if I'm a boomer downsizing, I might have some questions about all the equity that's built up over the years and if I'm going to be paying taxes on it. So I might be reaching out to my CPA first. If I'm got a loved one who's transitioning into some form of retirement living and we need to sell the house and I want to know, hey, it's going to be expensive. How much is mom's care going to cost and how much will the equity in my house be able to pay for it? I might be talking to a financial planner. And then of course, those families that are inheriting properties, they're not calling us first. It's usually the estate planning attorney that's on the front lines of that business. So James, when we look at the fact that we've got three other professionals out there who know about the opportunities with 75% of the sellers before we do, I think it's a simple equation of what are we doing to go get in relationship with those other professionals? Would you agree, Emily?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's very simple in terms of communicating to them because we have an email template that we send out and on average, we get a 1 in 3 response rate from the emails that we're sending out to connect with those professionals. And one of the things that we hear more often, James, than not, is the response from the professional referrals that go, I'm so glad you reached out to me. I don't have a real estate referral relationship currently.
There's a lot of opportunity, and it's not surprising that these people don't have a relationship, so go gain one. And I'm thinking about like what my database looks like right now. I know people who are like me, right? So I'm in my mid 40s. I've got a teenage kid. That's who I hang out with. So my direct sphere is not in this 75%, but my direct sphere's parents are.
Yes.
And so
Right.
how am I educating my sphere that and even asking what's going on with them? My mom's in her 70s. She's in the final house she's going to live in until she transitions to whatever the next thing is for her, which she would tell you is it's a long way away. But am I in a flow with Nadine, so that when her parents want to do something, she thinks of me? Am I in a flow with Vicky so that when her parents want to do something, she thinks of me? I think that's an opportunity too for a lot of people, is to figure out where are you in relationship to this group, and then how do you get into relationship with that group? Would you agree?
I love that you brought this up. So I too am in my mid 40s. Emily, hasn't even yet turned 30. However, what's interesting is when you share about how you're helping people in these situations, they volunteer their own situation. So, for example, we all have had the person in our life, and it probably happens daily, if not weekly, ask us, hey, how's real estate? And of course, we always say it's great and blah, blah, blah. Well, instead of just saying it's great, when they're asking us how real estate is, that's an opportunity for us to tell the story behind the fact that, hey, it's really active. In fact, 75% of the people we're helping right now is falling into one of these three categories. And as we tell them the narrative of who we're helping, more often than not, they sit there and they do a quick inventory in their own mind, in their own world, about who fits that avatar, and then they share it. They say, hey, funny you should mention that. Yes, I've got a mother who's in this situation. Or, yeah, you know what? I've got parents and we've been begging them to sell the family house. It's too much and da, 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 da. So just by telling the story, regardless of your age and the age of the people you're connected to, when you share the story behind who and how you're helping people, they volunteer the opportunities. And if we want one place where we can tell stories, not just one-to-one, but one-to-many, we're all on social media. And we're all very good about posting just listed, just sold, under contract. Yet what I'm not seeing enough of our agents do, James, is actually tell the story behind why they're moving. Or when people are downsizing or transitioning, there's common questions or challenges. Hey, I've had a lot of people ask me as a result of helping people downsize this question. Here's my take on it.
Yeah.
There's so much content and storytelling that can happen that brings these opportunities to the forefront.
You can do a video very quickly. I don't think anybody cares that you took a listing or sold a house, but they care about the people behind it. And so tell those stories. Emily, you guys say then that's, focus on that group to find listings. You gave us some suggestions about how to focus on it, but what would you add on how we narrow our focus to the 75%?
I would say that what you said essentially is look at your database. I actually just got a referral a couple weeks ago because I was having this conversation of where we're seeing sellers in the market. And I got a referral from someone that their parents are nearing their 80s. And they were like, hey, my parents need help. It's very emotional. They don't want to sell. They have to do this. Can you go out and walk them through this? And so I think it's having the conversations and understanding that this is the demographic that also doesn't have a lot of the challenges that some of these sellers have when it comes to, they have the equity, right? we're not sitting there and it's a net negative. They didn't just buy the house 2 or 3 years ago. They don't have the interest rate challenges. So I would just say it's really understanding that this is the demographic, mastering your conversation and your narrative around it, and then just start executing, start telling the story. The more that you do it, the better that you're going to get.
I imagine a huge chunk of them have massive amount of equity, and a bunch of them own them free and clear. If they're going to go buy something else, they're going to either put down a ton or just pay cash for it. Like, it eliminates all the issues that others are having in the market are eliminated from this group. And you said, all right, get in relationship with the CPA, get in relationship with the senior living planner, whatever it is.
Yep.
What would your advice be to connect with someone like that? So how do we add value to that person? A mentor of ours, Diana Kokoska, would always say, you add value before you ask for something back. And so I'm wondering, how do you add value to that group before you start asking for referrals?
Yeah, you know what? We talked about an email template that we use, and Google's our best friend here. Now, you can do it by referral. You can ask the other professionals you're connected to for referrals to other professionals. But if you Google the estate planning attorney in your city, Google's going to show you a map with all of the attorneys there that you could go get in relationship with. And the one thing that we have to remember, whether it's an attorney, a CPA, or a financial planner, we probably have more opportunity for them than they have for us. So when we send an email with a subject line that says estate planning attorney needed, right? Dear attorney, I'm a real estate agent here in this area. I've been selling property for however long it's been. And I've been coming across a lot of clients recently that have a need for your services. Are you taking on new clients and can we set up a time to chat? I'm bringing them value because I have business for them. How do I have business for them? Well, number one, people from my database might be going through a life event that they have questions. But more importantly, if we're just talking estate planning attorney for a second, how many buyers have we represented that should probably look at doing some estate planning, that should probably talk to an attorney about maybe establishing a trust, that we never made that referral? So we automatically are coming to the table, not with our hat in hand, but hey, I have a need for you. My clientele is doing what you specialize in, and I've got a need for you. So we're showing up, already letting them know that, hey, this is what we're seeing. We need more people like you to be connected with to service our clients.
It's
Oh, and by the way, might you have anyone that you're working on that we could help?
Yeah.
No doubt. Sorry to jump on you, but it's about adding value before you ask. All right, let's go to challenge number 2. Challenge number 2 is creating urgency for that seller. The person's raised their hand. It would make sense too, by the way, if 75% of the sellers right now are in that age group, that they're going to be slower to list. There's other stuff that comes with that. But I'm also hearing it just across the board. They're slower to get things done in the house that need to get done. So let's talk about creating a little bit of urgency. What advice would you two give?
Yeah. So when it comes to creating urgency, it's really important that when we go through a lot of sellers, what we're finding right now is they have hesitancy whenever it comes to the market. Is now the right time or pricing, right? So we're talking about the older generation, and yet this is going to work for everyone. So when you meet with a seller, it's really important for them to understand that now is the time. And it's easy for agents to say now is the time over and over again. And yet facts trump feelings. So we need to show them and educate them by using, Gary shares the slides with us every year at Family Reunion and Mega Camp. And what we do is we teach that you go through what we call macro market, micro market, and hyper local market. And you tier it in those directions such that the macro market are the national numbers. So what you can see from the data, I'll just talk to it right now, is what you can see from the data is that in 2005, we had the highest number of home sales annually than we had historically since 1989. So then when we look at that from that data trend, then we know that it declined from 2006 to 2010 and bottomed out in 2011 when it comes to number of home sales. Well, what's interesting is if you look at that graph, it's very similar looking to what's happening since 2021, right? We've seen a decline in the number of home sales year over year. And so the question is, how does that impact home prices? What's fascinating, James, is that from 2005, when we had the top home sales, prices actually didn't start really significantly declining until 2010. So when we look at what's happening now, if history were to repeat itself, yet there are economic factors, right? That, GDP, unemployment rate, the state of the economy, which there are some uncertainties there. I don't have a crystal ball, right? I wish I did. The economists, the top economists in the nation don't have a crystal ball, right? We all don't know. We just interpret the data. And we know that what goes up must come down. And historically, history does tend to repeat itself. So if history were to repeat itself, what might happen, right? At some point, prices will go down. And there are some markets that we're seeing, as Aaron and I coach all over the nation, where there are pockets where they're down 10%, where they're starting to decline, right? Where the national numbers look like, they're increasing. What's also fascinating is that some sellers will want to wait for a spring market. Historically, the last 3 years, there has not been a spring market, whether that's the average price or the number of homes sold month over month. Normally, we see that seasonality look like this, right? Where it's a wave and there are more sales in spring and summer. That's just not the case these last few years. So there's no better time to sell from a macro standpoint. Then we look as the economist of choice and we go micro with them. Here's what's happening in your specific area, right? Here's how many properties. Here's the month's supply. The great news for you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, is that we're still in a seller's market, which a majority of our markets, to be fair, are in sellers markets. There are few that I have seen that have transitioned to a buyer's or even a balanced market. Most markets are still in a seller's market. So it's really important to interpret that for the urgency. And we are under time constraints here, right? At any point, what goes up must go down. It's just, when is the ball going to drop? And then it's what's specific to their area. The other thing that we're seeing whenever it comes to getting urgency, when it comes to the things that they need to do to take care of the property, is getting listing commitments. If they're not ready to sign a full-blown listing agreement, you should absolutely have a listing commitment on every single appointment where they're committing, and we have a tentative list date and we have a tentative price to help walk them through it. We also see that when you have relationships, like Aaron was saying with the professional services, this is the time, y'all, to have your allied resource and vendor relationships locked down, right? As a win-win partnership. Who are your contractors? Who are your painters? Do we have a concierge service as a part of our listing compensation packages where we can give them options of the services that we provide through walking them through and handling these things to speed up the process for them?
There's so much good in here. I can see why your program is so good and why everyone should take it, because you could do an hour on every, like, the 6 things you just talked about. That's how good it was. What I love is this going big to small. The story nationally is home prices are still up. In fact, they're rising faster than what still the trend should be. And yet I live in a market where home prices are down, right? They're down here. But we're still in the seller's market when you look at month's supply, but inventory is up double digits. Like, it's weird. I've not seen 20 years I've been in the business, and what's happening in the county I live in right now, I don't understand, because it shouldn't look like the way it looks, but that's the way it looks. So being able to explain the market, but even if I look at it here, so our home prices are down, and yet nearly everyone who owns a home here has a massive amount of equity in it. So we don't want to get too hung up on that stuff. Just find motivated people and get them listed and move forward. Is that the lesson?
Yeah, James, I'll just say real quick, one of the things that I say to sellers and we teach on is that a lot of sellers feel as though they're losing when they're actually winning, because the last 5 years we've had an astronomical amount of appreciation. And so it's kind of like if you went to a casino, right? And if you and I went to a casino and we sat down at the blackjack table, we walk in, we each have $100. We sit at the blackjack table and we're having fun. We get on a heater. We're up to $800, right? But we're making friends. We're having fun. Mm-hmm. So we don't leave. And guess what? Our heater dies. We're very sad. And we only have $400. So we decide, you know what? We're going to cash out where we're ahead. Did we win or did we lose?
You won.
You won. But at one point you had $800. And I think what sellers need to realize is that they didn't have that money in their bank account. Just like at the blackjack table, we didn't have that money. It wasn't actually ours. It was just the value of chips on the table. And so that's a great analogy that can really dial people into, you're actually winning when you may feel like you're losing. So let's make the best decision, knowing the timing of the market and moving forward and getting your property sold for top dollar.
We have a home in our neighborhood that's just like that right now. The price they want, they could have gotten 2 years ago. They cannot get it today. It's overpriced significantly, but they're still going to sell it for double what they paid for it. Like, they're going to be disappointed, but they're going to win in a big way and get a big check, but they're going to be disappointed in doing it. We've got to set those expectations. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, and I'll make one more point, which will lead us to the third challenge, is that there's an opportunity cost to not doing something. And we have to remember that as great listing agents, or agents working with clients buying also, but as great listing agents, we're there to help people make decisions. We're there to help bring them clarity. And we also have to help them see that there's an opportunity cost to not selling now. And there's really 3 costs it could be. It could be financial, especially if they're downsizing, maybe it's saving money. It could be emotional, not being closer to family or loved ones, missing out on life's moments, or it could be physical. Either maybe the house is a danger, or it could be physical distance, right? They're spending an hour or two each day commuting in traffic. So when we also start to make sure that people are clear that there's not just a benefit to moving, but there's a cost to not doing it, that helps create a little bit more urgency, if appropriate, in helping them choose to move forward.
Well, then let's talk about pricing. That's the next challenge. And that's the one I hear most common right now, is that they're just struggling to figure it out. So walk us through pricing in today's market.
Yeah, I'm going to walk. Yeah, so we'll walk it through more from the price reduction side of it, because at the end of the day, sometimes we just don't know until we put a home on the market exactly what the market will bear. But the one thing that we have to get really good at is setting the pricing expectations, because pricing is a scientific equation, right? We know from all the studies out there that when we put a home on our market, we're going to know within the first 2 weeks, based on the feedback, based on the activity, exactly where we stand with the price versus the market. And we use 4 simple metrics to judge how we're doing, because it's important that we give the seller clarity. So when we're talking about price, or if we're priced right or not, it's not I think, I feel, maybe. It's not vague. We have to give black and white metrics. So what we share with the seller is that, listen, the good news is we'll know we're priced right when we're seeing 4 metrics. Number 1, 3 to 5 showings per week. Number 2, buyers coming back for second looks. Number 3, positive feedback from the agents and the client. And number 4, offers or talk of offers. If we're seeing those 4 metrics, week 1 and again week 2, the market's telling us we're probably doing all right. If we're seeing some of those metrics, maybe we're getting good activity, but no second looks and the feedback is mixed, then most likely the market's telling us we're off by about 5%. If it's crickets, we put it out there and here we are a week or 2 later and it's nothing, then the market's telling us we're off by at least 10%. So when we give those 4 metrics as the expectation, it's crystal clear, it's black and white. It's not I think, I feel. It's a scientific proven equation to know if we're priced right or not and what to do about it.
Oh, it's so good. Emily, anything to add?
I would just add on the front side of that, whenever it comes to pricing, that we're seeing is that a lot of agents are struggling with what to price, and it's really important that we're pricing in the market and not out of the market. And so the strategy that we like to use is, obviously you're going to look at area data or neighborhood data, and yet what we find a lot of times with sellers is they say that their home is not like the other ones in the neighborhood, right? Or that their home's better, or their home has more upgrades, or it has this. And that can be a challenge, and sometimes feels like it's me versus you with the seller when we want to be in alignment, right? Because we don't determine the market of what's top dollar. Our goal is to interpret the data such that we determine what the best price is, because the listing price is just the marketing price, if we're being honest, right? Yeah. So the number one thing that I would say is look at the neighborhood data, and yet also go a step further and say, if I were a buyer and I were going to shop this house, what are the 2 other houses that I would also look at that are active on the market? What are 2 pending houses that I would have looked at if they would have been on the market? Mm-hmm. And what are 2 properties that have closed in the last 90 days that I would have looked at would they have been on the market? And that'll give you a lot of really good insight from a buyer's perspective. And I share with sellers, at the end of the day, a home is only worth what a buyer is going to pay. So I went a step further. And instead of just looking at your neighborhood and area, I looked at, if I were a buyer, what would I shop? And then we go through those photos, and they really, really appreciate that insight, and that can help them. Because when it comes to pricing, you're doing one of 2 things. You're educating them or you're validating.
That's really good. That's genius.
Yeah. I'll just add one last thing on the pricing piece, is that those 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of that listing, we have to also remember why it's 2 weeks. And sometimes we have to explain it to the consumer. They might think that 2 weeks is too quick. If it's been a while, they might think it takes months to market a property. But we have to understand that at any moment in time, there's a pool of buyers, right? There's always a pool of buyers. And the minute we activate that listing, it will be fully exposed within the first 24 to 48 hours to anyone who's in the market looking for a home in this price point in this area. Right. Now, it might take them a week, maybe 2, to make it through the property physically, but by no means, make no mistake, after 2 weeks, everyone who's in the market will have seen it, they have made a judgment, and we'll know where we stand.
That's really good.
And if we're not seeing the metrics, any new buyers that come into the market in week 3, week 4, if they're clear that all the current buyers have said no to the property at the price, what are the odds that they're going to walk in and say yes to that price? They're not. They might still walk in, but they're not going to write you a full priced offer.
Right. Yeah, the unicorn buyer isn't going to show up. This is the in the market, out of the market from Shift. It's really, really good. It's smart. We're going to do a lot more. You're doing an hour-long workshop with us on pricing and price reduction strategy and all that kind of stuff. April 15th for our Inspire Collective members. So if you're a member, you can get the link in the portal. If you're not a member, you can get details on it at jamesdshaw.com. You guys have done your coaching program with MAPS on this for a long time. It's extremely successful. It's one of the most popular, and quite frankly, I think one everybody should take. Could you give them the details on it and how they can enroll?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are actually doing a clinic this Friday, and we have quite a few clinics. They are 3 hours straight to the point. We are doing top listing lead generation strategies that are working right now. We have the pre-list to pre-qual to sign the listing every time, and then sell your listing every time. And so we will send out the information for everyone to sign up and do a special for your Inspire members.
Oh, you're so great. And if anyone's watching that wants info on your program, they go to mapscoaching.com and click the fast track button, and it should all pop right up.
That's right.
Anything else you want to add before we kick it?
Here, all I say is that, Emily, I strongly believe listings never go out of style. So if you're going to invest somewhere, invest in taking listings.
That's good stuff. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate both of you very much. We'll see you April 15th. And hopefully we got a bunch of people enrolling in your program. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
James.